Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my lair. How are you guys doing? Actually, just kidding. Don't answer that as usual. I don't care. I have a video for you today, one that I have been waiting quite a few weeks to actually make for you. I don't have my contacts in today because I went on TV and I have some things to say, and I don't know. I didn't feel like putting them in today. I guess I felt like just being normal. I know, right? But yes, anyways, you could probably tell based off of the title, I went on the Phil show. Mr. Phil, Dr. Phil. I went on the show. They invited me on a couple of weeks ago, so they flew me out to LA. It was horrible. Never going back there again. Yeah, and I went on the Dr. Phil show and said not nearly enough. Which is why I'm making this video today, because the way that it was, I'm just gonna get right into it, right? Because, so it started by me getting contacted by their producer on my business email, and they asked me if I wanted to go on the show and be on the Dr. Phil show. I thought it was fake and a troll until I was actually boarding the plane that they paid for to go to LA, and I was like, oh, so it's not a troll, we're actually going. Yeah, so it was pretty nuts. But yeah, so they invited me on. They said it's gonna be like a bit of a debate. I didn't even know if I was gonna be the only person on, but we get there, we go to the show, right? LA was awful. I went to an In-N-Out. It was decent. The fries were the best. Burger was mid. Toxic, controversial take, I know, I'm sorry. But Wendy's top tier. But yeah, so we went on the show. I got driven to the Dr. Phil show, their set, right, by their driver. He picked us up at the Roosevelt Hotel, supposedly haunted. Not that great of food, but it was comped and I didn't have to pay for it, so I'm fine with that. Yeah, we got there. It was terrible. I had to wear this old granny outfit. They brought me like a mustard yellow shirt with like frilly sleeves that I refused to wear. So I got like my white pants and like I put on like a black tank top, and they're like, it needs to be a full outfit. And so then they made me put on this other shirt on top of it that looked like something like my 80-year-old grandma Beverly would wear, but I sucked it up and dealt with it. But yeah, so we did that. Then they had an 80-year-old man do my makeup, and they did me a complete fucking disservice. I'll probably stick a picture here, like, bruh. Really? I should have done my own makeup. I wish they would have let me. I wish. God forbid. Jesus. But yes, anyways. So we get on the show, and it did not go at all according to plan. But yeah, it did not go according to plan at all. We were supposed to, the way that it was explained to me is that this episode would be a debate. Right, I was supposed to be able to debate the other people who were on, because I had me and there was another trans woman who agreed with, like what I agree with, right? She had a lot of my takes too. And then they brought on a trans man and a trans woman on the opposite side who said that we should be transitioning children and, just giving hormones out and everything. One of the people on was Eli Elric or whatever the fuck their name is. I don't even know if it's a guy or a girl. I'm confused. I've heard both sides, honestly. But yeah, this person is an absolute grade A scumbag, and I wish I had known who they were when I filmed this episode, because it would have gone so differently. But yeah, me and I think everybody else on that panel who was talking did not know who Eli was. And I will explain to you who Eli is once it actually, once they come up. And once it gets to their segment, I will give you a proper explanation so you can see their trash takes on top of their other trash takes that are actually shown today. But yes, so I suppose I should just go over it with you. Yay. So, there's me, little old me, with the bad makeup that I fucking hated. And they basically, I'm not going to go over my stint too, because y'all know me, y'all know who I am. They went through and showed,
Transition.
like all of my, here, I'll mute it so you guys can hear me talking. They went through and they showed all of my, I should move myself, shouldn't I? My old trans pics. and they went over everything, you know, like who I am, who Ryan is, oh, what is detransition and everything, and talked about what I regretted most, you know, like my voice and everything, and how we shouldn't be transitioning children, and yeah, all of that jazz. There are probably clips on Dr. Phil's YouTube, and I don't want to show everything. I did go over everything like this on my alt channel if you want to hear and see everything, but I recapped my life, and you guys know who I am, so I don't need to repeat that. But yeah, so I went on and I talked about a little bit about my experience, and I wish that I would have been able to like say more stuff, like more of my opinions, but it didn't really go in that direction at all. And then they brought on Reese, which I have a lot to say about, honestly. So yeah.
Well, Reese, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So they bring on Reese, right? And let me just preface this and move myself over here because I don't want to be in the way. I talked to Reese after the show because we both got put on the same car to go back to the airport to fly back. So we had some time to talk because we were, you know, it takes like 45 minutes to get from the Dr. Phil show to LAX to fly back. So we had time. And poor Reese is getting a lot of hate online that I don't feel like he deserves. I feel like this episode really does kind of paint him in a bit of a bad light. Just like a lot of us, we didn't really get to really elaborate on a lot of our takes, you know, and like a lot of what I said. And because a lot of what he said seems really extreme. And it did seem, at least to me too, that he had a lot of extreme views. Like he says that if you don't give trans kids the care that they need, that it's trans genocide. And I do feel like that's a little bit of an extreme take, but I feel like a lot of people will interpret that as saying that, if you don't give trans kids hormones, you're trying to kill kids. Like, and that's not what he's saying at all, because Reese, and it isn't explained very well, and we didn't really get a chance to explain very well through this episode, but he doesn't believe that, I mean, he's like me, he doesn't believe that kids should just be handed hormones, right? Because he transitioned a long time ago, right? Quite a few years ago, back when it was a different thing, right? And he had to go through many, many, many doctors, many psychologists and therapists, you know, over the course of years, right, to transition. It wasn't just given to him. He couldn't just walk into Planned Parenthood like I did and just get hormones. It was a different time for him. And that's where it kind of like differs, right, between me and him and some of the other people who come on in this episode later on, is that yes, he believes his experience is valid, right? And he says, this is how we should be doing it because it worked for me. And granted, I don't think that just because it works for one person means that it should be made universally for everyone, because just because you got lucky and just because your experience works for you does not mean it's going to be the right experience for everyone, because everybody's different, right? But don't hate on Reese too much, because this episode paints him in a bit of a bad light, and he doesn't just believe that you should just be handing hormones out to kids. No, that's Eli's thought, right? And Reese didn't know who Eli was either, and neither did I. So yeah, I mean, they're on the same side, but don't think that Reese and Eli have the same values, because they don't, right? Eli is a grade A scumbag, and granted, me and Reese have different opinions on a lot of things, but he's not a terrible person. So I just want to put a disclaimer out there. Please don't hate on Reese too much. He's a very nice guy. This episode, it just paints everybody in a bit of a weird light, because nobody got to explain like what we actually thought. Nobody actually got to elaborate. Like, if we could just talk to each other, like if Dr. Phil like ditched, right, if we kicked Dr. Phil out and just the four of us, well, maybe aside from Eli, because that would have never been a productive conversation, but me, there was a trans girl named Kara, and then Reese, if we had just gotten on and was just able to discuss, you know, our opinions, right, and just like had actually like been able to talk like adults and like have a discussion about it, it would have been a much more productive episode. But no, it was essentially just a show and tell of different experiences. Nobody got to really talk to each other except for me and Reese once. Other than that, it was just Dr. Phil asking you, oh, you're new, you come on, this is your experience, what do you think? Okay, cool. You're new, what is your experience? What do you think? Cool. And then it just goes on. Nobody had any opportunity to talk to each other. It was just people stating their opinions, and that's it. It was just a trans show and tell, essentially, which is why I really, really didn't like it. But I don't care if you hate his opinions, Reese's opinions, right? You can have a different opinion, but don't insult him as a person. please, because he's a nice guy. It's just different, right? It's just different. Okay, moving on.
I always knew. I went to bed at 5 years old. I want to be a boy. Wake me up tomorrow as a boy. It was always boy toys, boy McDonald's meals, boy everything. I was a boy, just not on the outside.
And this is also something that I do want to stop. And like I said, I'm going to skim through this entire episode, but there are things that I want to step on and well, not step on, that I want to stop on and mention. This is one of the things that I do disagree with Reese about, is that I don't think that kids have the mental capacity to know, whether or not they're trans or their gender. Because, Reese says that he knew when he was 5 years old. He transitioned when he was 11. There are a lot of people who will come out there and say that that is child abuse, and that you shouldn't be doing that. That's two different opinions, and honestly, I have my opinion. Reese has his opinion. A lot of other people have their opinions. I feel like right now, unless we come up with a compromise, there's no completely changing one or the other side's opinion. It's just it's just different opinions. So regardless of what you say on that, that's kind of his take. This whole episode, he's coming on saying that, hey, I transitioned when I was 11. Saying he's really glad he transitioned. He doesn't regret it. He did not get surgery though, top surgery, until recently. I think it was last year that he got top surgery. So he did wait until he was an adult. But I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'll go back and skim through the episode, but I'm pretty sure he got approved for it when he was 15, but decided not to do it yet, which I think was a damn good decision. But yes, so Reese is of the opinion that kids should be able to transition just with extensive medical help. And he thinks you have to go through a whole bunch of psychologists and a whole bunch of therapists to transition, which if there was ever a compromise that I'd be willing to compromise on, it would be that. I don't think that kids should medically transition at all, but if, we're adults. We're all about compromise, right? I'm probably not going to get 100% my way, and Reese probably isn't going to get 100% his way. Or all the other people who think that you should just be giving kids hormones, they're not going to 100%, hopefully, in the future, get their way. And so if there's ever a compromise between the two, it would be something like this that I think is fairly reasonable, even though I don't agree with all of it. How many times do I have to say compromise before I feel like it gets across, right? If you're going to have kids transitioning, at least have it be extensively, like an extensive medical procedure. At least make them see a lot of doctors, a lot of psychologists, and years of therapy, because they are children, right? And don't be canceling doctors if they decide, hey, you think you're transgender, but it's not for the right reasons. You're going to end up regretting this later on if you do this. Don't be canceling doctors if they say that, because they are doctors and they are there to differentiate and tell the difference between if you are transgender, if you're not transgender, if you have dysphoria, or if you're mistaking it for something else like I did. Because if you don't, right, doctors are just basically glorified dispensers, because at that point, if they are going to get canceled for not affirming your gender like a lot of doctors are, then the only point, to going to a doctor is just to get your testosterone. You're not going to them to get a diagnosis. It's not even a real fucking diagnosis at that point if they're too afraid to tell you no. So, the only point is just to go and, like I did, call Planned Parenthood and get your hormones, or call up your local, your doctor and say, hey, I'm trans, I want hormones, and then they'll fucking give it to you. That has to stop. That has to stop. Doctors have to be allowed to say no. That's the whole point of them being a doctor. Why would you go to a doctor to just have them tell you what you want to hear? I'm not going to go to a doctor with a cough and say, I think I have pneumonia. And they're like, oh, you think you have pneumonia? Cool, you probably have pneumonia then. Here's medicine. No! You're supposed to run tests on me and figure out if that's actually what's going on, because I don't want you treating me for something that I don't have, right? I don't want you giving me bad medical advice. And, essentially doctors being too afraid to tell kids that, no, you're transitioning for the wrong reasons, and giving kids hormones, even when they don't think that they're trans, that is medical malpractice. That's bad. You can't do that. But nowadays, people are so afraid of getting their medical career fucking tanked down the drain or being canceled online or losing their fucking medical license if they get sued for not giving a child hormones who they truly believe shouldn't have it. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That's the only thing that I disagree about, like, with Reese's take here. And that's basically his whole thing. And like I said, I'm not going to play the entire episode. I'm just going to skim. The full episode is on my alternate channel if you want to, like I said, probably 3 times already, if you want to hear takes. But so that was Reese's take. And then they go on and bring out Kara, which is a trans woman who I have personally talked to before. Let me fucking find her. And then I think I go on to ask Reese too. That is not who I want. This is Kara, right? I'm so sorry, Kara. I'm giving you a bad...
Or female to male.
Decent. Okay. So this is Kara. She is a trans woman who shares a lot of my same opinions. Like, I mean, she shares the opinion of, you know, trans women are trans women and you should be proud to be a trans woman and not try to hide it by saying you're not. You know, like, we agree with, like, a lot of the same opinions that we shouldn't be transitioning children just willy-nilly, right? So me and her agree on a lot of stuff, and that's why I figure she was put on my side of the panel, because we kind of have the same opinions. But yeah, she also transitioned younger, and she had a very successful transition. But yeah, she doesn't think that kids should be transitioned, you know, without, you know, going through the proper channels at the very fucking least, right? And so I'm going to kind of recap, because she shares, like I said, she shares a lot of my same opinions. And so it would be a lot of just me repeating myself. But yeah, she came on. They went to a commercial break after they got done with her segment. And, you know, it was like we were chill. This is the thing. This is going to be important later on. We were all chill. After Kara came on, you know, and in fact, after Reese came on, and it was just me and Reese after they went to the commercial break after his segment, I tried to be friendly. I tried to make conversation, you know, because it was just me, Reese. There were no cameras. We were just sitting there while they were changing the setup, right? And I was like, have you ever been on TV before? And he's like, no, I don't know what to do. So yeah, because Reese was a nice guy, and we all kind of, you know, talked, you know, like we were civil. And then she came out, you know, and we were all talking, you know, and just being, you know, friendly after the break. And that changes drastically after they brought on Eli. Ugh, God. I hate this person. To give you some explanation, Eli Elric, I think, is her name. She is a trans woman who is, I think I should give them an award, honestly, for being the biggest scumbag I think I've seen this year. And most of that last year and the year before that. Yeah, I mean, they just take the cake all the way around. Multiple rape accusations. They have, with receipts too, like they have admitted to this stuff. And also receipts, they made an Instagram post advertising, giving away their unused prescription hormones to minors across the globe who want, you know, hormones. They're like, oh, hey, me and some other people, we have hormones, you know, that we didn't use. If you want our unused hormones, DM me and let me know, and I'll send them to you, which is illegal and is a federal offense. Distributing prescription drugs to minors is a crime. You cannot do that. Yeah, so grade A scumbag. There's a lot of other stuff that has been going on with Eli that I don't even want to get into. But yeah, lots of horrific assault accusations against Eli that they have admitted to. If you look this up, they have, like, there's screen caps of them saying, yeah, I'm a horrible person, I'm sorry, what I did was wrong. Like, I mean, they've admitted to it. Grade A scumbag right here. And I cannot believe that I didn't know who Eli was, because if I knew who this person was when they walked on, oh my god, I would have lit them up, man. I would have lit them all the way the fuck up. It would have been a completely different episode, and it would have went in a completely different direction. I might have gotten kicked off the set, because I would have roasted this person. But yeah, so Eli comes on to say some ridiculous shit, and I think I should just this is the stuff I'm going to review. We'll review Eli most, because as soon as Eli... Also, let me just mention, as soon as Eli came on and they went into a commercial break, since I didn't know who Eli was, I tried to do the same thing that I did with Reese and with Kara, you know, be friendly, right? Say hi. I got, like, as soon as I tried to, you know, say hi or something, I got the, like, detransitioner. Don't talk to me. I'm better than you. Like, I got that treatment, and so did Kara next to me, because and even though she's trans, right? But because she agreed with me, Eli like wouldn't even look at her, right? She wouldn't even look at me, right? Because we're some lowly I'm like a lowly detransitioner, right? I'm dirty. You know, how dare Eli stoop to such a low level as to talk to me, right? And yeah, general stick up the ass attitude with Eli. And yeah, there was no conversing, you know, after in commercial breaks between us anymore. No, we just sat there awkwardly because Eli ruined the fucking vibe. I kid you not. But let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the opinions that dear Eli has, and we'll go over them. Yeah.
Would you recommend other people do what you did when you did it?
If people are certain about who they are, then we have an obligation to support them.
They say that if people are certain about who they are, but bitch, how the fuck is a child, a minor, supposed to be certain about who they are? And I made this point in my video on my alternate channel too. Like, say if I'm like a 14-year-old girl and I'm jealous of my classmate who's maybe a few grades above me and she has bigger boobs than me and all the guys like her, and I'm fucking jealous and I want big boobs, and I say that, oh, I'm dysphoric about my chest, I want a boob job, and they ask me why, it's like, oh, well, I want a boob job because I know that's just who I am, right? I identify as a chick with big boobs, right? Are you going to give a 14-year-old a boob job? No. But you'll cut them off, right? Which I find is insane. Like, you won't, like, it's child abuse to give a child a cosmetic surgery, an unnecessary cosmetic surgery like a boob job. But all of a sudden it's not child abuse if they say that, oh, I'm dysphoric, I want to be a guy, so cut my boobs off and give me top surgery, and you're not even allowed to question it. Like, I'm a bigot for saying that you should not be giving medical surgeries and procedures like that to children that sterilizes them, and if I say that, I'm the bad guy. But in any other scenario, it would be considered child abuse, just not in this one. Right, sure.
I've worked with thousands of trans youth over the years.
Unfortunate that you have worked with trans youth. You should probably be kept within at least 500 feet away from youth, I think.
And many stories are very similar to my own. I personally came out when I was 8 and went on hormones when I was 15, had surgery when I was 17, and have no regrets. There is, frankly, an unprecedented moral panic over trans people right now that's completely unnecessary.
It's completely unnecessary, really. Is it just me, or is it the way that this person talks and their voice is just completely unsincere? Like, you look like a shithead. You sound like a shithead. And what you say is stuff that would come from a shithead. I hate you. And it's not completely unprecedented because when it's something that involves the well-being of children, it's typically taken very, very seriously, and you trying to shove it under the rug and saying that, oh, we're overreacting, you know, we don't need to be talking about this, it's being blown way out of proportion, giving kids surgeries that sterilize them and hormones to minors, you know, that's not a big deal. You're overreacting, okay? It's fine. It's fine. And if you think it is a big deal, you're a bigot and an awful person. You should go die. Like, what? No, boo-boo, no.
Trans people, to put it simply, just want to be left alone.
God, no. Like, the silent majority of people, adults, right, who identify as transgender, right, who are trans people, sure, they probably just want to be left alone. But you You do not want to be left alone. If you wanted to be left alone, you would not be so blatantly outspoken about all of this crazy shit. You would not be saying, hey, kids, if you are young, if you're a minor and you think that you're a guy or a girl, DM me and I'll give you my prescription hormones, which is a federal fucking crime. If you wanted to be left alone, you would not be saying that. You would not be going on Dr. Phil. Just like me, I'm a detransitioner. You don't hear me saying, guys, I just want to be left alone. Why are you hating me? Like, no, I don't want to be left alone either. Because I make YouTube videos and I go online and I state this shit because I don't want to be left alone. I have something to say and I want to interact with people and I want to say it. That doesn't mean that I want to be left alone. No, it's the fucking opposite. You do not want to be left alone. Anyone who makes videos or content creation or, is blatantly outspoken about stuff like this, you don't want to be left alone. If you wanted to be left alone, you'd shut the fuck up about it and live your life. Like, you don't want to be left alone. So don't pretend like you're the innocent victim here when a majority of her followers have gone and harassed people. And in fact, all she does when it comes to detransitioners for the rest of this entire episode is just completely like not even acknowledge my existence. And I will point that out to you later when it pops up.
We want to be supported by our communities, and we really want respect.
Well, is that true? Do trans people...
Dr. Phil, we just want respect. Well, is that true? Good on you, Phil. Mr. Phil, please, yes. Call her out on her psychotic bullshit, please.
Want to be just left alone, or are they insisting that everybody stand up and make an affirmation that they're doing the right thing in the right way at the right time? Because those are two different things.
They are, Dr. Phil. Yes, you are correct about that. I don't have many pleasant things to say about the show, but that was correct, right? Yeah, it's just the loud majority. And now I'm not talking about the silent the silent majority, sorry. I'm talking about the loud minority, right? The people, the loud activists, right, who go on Twitter and they call you transphobic for even just stating a scientific fact. The people who say, oh, you're transphobic, go die, you bigot, drink bleach. The people who are obnoxious online about that stuff. Like, no, they don't want to be left alone. God.
Make an affirmation that they're doing the right thing in the right way at the right time, because those are two different things.
Like, the way that the LGBT cult sees it now is that you have to agree with us on our exact opinions and you have to be loud and vocal about it. Otherwise, you're a bigot and we hate you and you're a terrible person, and a lot of us are going to harass you for it online. And that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make people like you. It doesn't make people support you. You are like fear mongering. Like, you're pushing people into like supporting you because you're threatening them if they don't. Like, that has never worked long term ever. Okay? Like, saying if you don't support me in every single way, if you don't share my exact same opinions in every single way down to the fucking letter, then you're a bigot and I hate you and you're a terrible person and you're blank phobic. Like, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm sorry. Like, you can't just say my way or the highway. It doesn't work, except they deny it. They're like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Yet throughout the entire rest of the episode, Eli continues to do that.
What we're asking for is basic respect. We're not going around and teasing other people, at least hopefully.
Hogwarts, anyone? Hogwarts? We're not going around and teasing anyone. Harassing people, you mean. And you do that all the fucking time. Thank you.
I'm sure you will agree that there are people that start the process for the wrong reasons in the wrong way.
Absolutely. And I mean, most places.
This is to where they start to deny my entire existence, even though I'm sitting literally right across from them. Stay tuned. Please watch.
This point, between 1 and 2.5% of people detransition, an even smaller number of those have any regrets. It's also important to point out the number one reason for detransition is because transphobia.
What? What? The number one reason for detransition is transphobia. She literally called me transphobic, not sitting right across from her, and I did not get a single opportunity to say anything back because I would have had to interrupt Dr. Phil and other people just to say something. But yeah, the audacity. The Lion, the Witch, and the audacity of this bitch. Like, she literally is saying that the number one reason for detransition is transphobia. So you're saying that I truly am transgender, and I detransitioned because I was transphobic. So you're saying that I should just get over my transphobia, retransition into a guy because I'm actually a dude, and I only detransitioned because I was transphobic the whole time. Really, really, you dumb fuck. Fucking mongoloid. Like, what kind of a trash take is that? Sorry. Detransition is actually a lot more common than you think it is. And one thing that I also have a big problem with, you cannot state statistics, right, and studies, right, on trans people and detransition, and you can't say that, oh, well, the statistics are on my side, and that detransition is not a thing. It's not a thing. It doesn't happen, because there's also a scientist here that went on, multiple scientists, actually, and a news reporter guy who said that people, researchers, neuroscientists, people who do research and public articles on this shit, are afraid to post this stuff. They're afraid to put their research out, because when they do, stating that there are more detransitioners than you think and that it is more common than you think, they're afraid to put that out there because they get hated for it. And the mob comes after them and they are vilified. And so a lot of people don't put that kind of research out there because they just don't want to deal with the hate mob that they're going to get. So you cannot state that the statistics are on your side, because they're fucking not. The statistics are biased because you guys, like, and when I say you guys, I mean the loud LGBT activists, are basically intimidating researchers and scientists and these people who have this kind of information. You're like getting them to not post it because they're afraid of the reaction that they'll get if they do. Like actual science and real research. So you cannot say that it's not a thing. That oh my god, you scared the shit out of me.
That's what they call it. They call it fear-mongering.
Yeah, like you can't just, like, you can't say that the statistics are on your side. You scare the shit out of me. Yeah. He just came out of the shower and scared me. But yeah, you cannot say that the statistics are on your side when the statistics themselves are biased in your favor. Like, you can't do that. I mean, they'd be like going to a church and asking like a priest or a pastor, like a hardcore religious Christian dude, like, how many of the population is actually gay? You know, and he'll be like, oh, well, according to the research that I've done, not many people actually are gay at all. You know, it's actually just something that conversion therapy will help you get back to normal and get closer with God. You know, it's like you aren't going to go to a priest or a religious organization to ask their, you know, how many people they think are actually like gay, right? Because they'll say none, of course, right? So you can't go to these researchers and ask, hey, how many people are detransitioning? And you can't ask them that when they're afraid to give you the honest answer because they'll be hated for it, right? So you cannot state statistics when they're fucking biased.
What these two guests have been talking about, that even asking questions, wanting to have a conversation about it, or just raise some issues, causes them to be labeled transphobic, and basically people hating on them for raising the issues, and that doesn't help.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you there.
She says she actually agrees with me there, but not 5 minutes earlier she was saying, well, if you detransition, you're just transphobic. You like the Eli doesn't even know what Eli thinks. Because, like, Eli just agrees with what anybody says at first, and then twists it into something else. It's kind of like Andrew Tate, how he starts out saying something that's reasonable, but then it twists it into something that's extremely misogynistic out of left field, and you're like, holy shit, I was with you at first, but what the fuck are you talking about now? Like, I mean, it's the same fucking thing. Like, I mean... Someone send help.
there. I think some,
I know you-
I mean, as a trans activist, like I do think some of my fellow trans activists can be a little intense about these questions because
A little intense. The extreme trans activist who has god-awful takes, right, said that I am transphobic just for detransitioning, right? And you think that some of your other trans activists may have some, some intense takes, right? It's gonna be intense when I shove my fucking foot up your ass because you're an idiot.
very often they're not coming from a genuine place. People have already made up their minds, but they're going to keep on asking this question over and over again, basically just to pester us.
She thinks that people, like, questioning kids, when kids say that they want to transition and say, like, an 11-year-old girl says, I want to be a boy, and she thinks that people questioning that, right? Saying you need to see a doctor and see a therapist because you are 11 years old. You should not be questioning your gender at this age, or like any age, right? You should be seeing a therapist. And she's saying that people questioning, even in the slightest, being like transgender, like, oh, well, why do you think you're transgender? Oh, you have dysphoria. Can you explain? Tell me what about it you think is dysphoric? Like questioning people. And she thinks that it's not coming from a genuine place and we're just trying to pester you. What? I'm sure that if you ask all the parents of kids who either thought they were transgender or wanted to be transgender or actually transitioned, or the family members, brothers or sisters or close friends, if you ask them, hey, why did you question your family member, your daughter, your son, your friend, why they thought that they were transgender? Why did you question them? I guarantee you it won't be, oh, I just wanted to pester them. No, it's because people care. People don't want you making the wrong decision because transitioning is insanely permanent. It's not something you can ever go back on. And the fact that this Eli person wants people and kids in particular, to just willy-nilly walk into someplace, get hormones the same fucking day with no questioning whatsoever is insanity. Like, I mean, that's literally insane.
Researchers are terrified to put their research out there. They are attacked unbelievably for even discussing that this is a possibility. But
and this is exactly what I'm talking about there. Like that in particular, I wasn't ready for it to pop up just then. But yeah, like, I mean, this is exactly what people are saying, and this is exactly what I'm saying, when you can't trust the science on this, because like they just said that researchers are terrified to come forward with this research and this knowledge that says that there are more detransitioners, that a lot of people are detransitioning, and it's more than people realize, and they're scared to come forward with it. So yeah, no fucking wonder the science right now, the research appears to be on their side, because people are too afraid to post the actual research that shows that there's more on my side. Who fucking thought? Okay, and so for this next clip, this next guest that comes on, I'm just going to hide my camera and I'm just going to let you guys watch it in its entirety because I completely agree. It's a neuroscientist, Dr. So, I think. Yeah, she's written a book, like literally she's a neuroscientist, right? She is a doctor that studies your brain, okay? And she has some takes on there that Eli sure didn't like. And he actually, once they went to a commercial break after this, Eli started bashing this doctor and said, I think they even said, yeah, I read her book. It gave me a headache. Yeah, no wonder Eli gave you a headache because you probably don't have the brain cells to read it. In fact, I'm even surprised that you know how to read. Yeah, big words tend to hurt your brain when you don't understand them. Next time we meet up, I'll bring you a coloring book so it'll be right along your alley and it won't give you a headache.
Dr. Deborah So, joining us from her home in Toronto. So, doctors, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Phil. It's really a joy to get to speak with you, and I also commend you for having the guts to take on this subject.
Dr. So, why do you think young people are being incorrectly diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and should those who are wait to get transitions?
Absolutely. There should be a longer period of time, and most importantly, there needs to be a proper assessment done. I really take issue with this narrative that children, quote unquote, know their true selves or they know their gender identity if they believe that they're transgender, or that detransition is purely due to social stigma or due to transphobia. If you actually talk to detransitioners, as I have, you'll hear the reasons as to why they have chosen to detransition, why they have regret about their decisions, in many cases having undergone medicalization. There's so many other issues that these young people are struggling with, whether it is being on the autism spectrum. They have, many of them, if not all I've spoken to, have a history of sexual trauma. They are not comfortable with their sexuality if they are gay. They may have anxiety, depression, and in some cases, as in Ryan's case, if it's a young woman who reaches puberty, is not comfortable in her body, she thinks that because she doesn't like being sexualized by society, that means that she's actually a man, or she's so-called non-binary, even though there are only two genders. Even for young women who don't like having a period, they believe that that means that they're actually a man. And I question, do children actually have the capacity to make lifelong permanent decisions about their bodies? And do they really understand what these interventions involve? I don't think they do. And I think we're doing a real disservice to young people, especially with this ideology. We see it coming into education. We see it being glorified in society, with the fact that legitimate experts cannot speak about the science, that legitimate studies cannot be done. Actual science that is correct is being suppressed, is being denied, is being called hateful. And so people are understandably terrified to talk about this. And if you are in the field, whether you're an academic, my reason for leaving academia is because I wasn't willing to stay quiet about this issue. If you do work within, say, academia, if you're a scientist, you cannot produce any research that goes against activist narratives, or they will completely destroy you.
And what do you say to the parents of a child like Reese, who says, look, at 5 years old, he knew at the core of his soul who he was, and that it was not who he had been assigned at birth. What do you say to someone like that is truly suffering, and goes through the steps in a cautionary fashion?
I think that intervention should be on a one-on-one case. So about the individual patient, it shouldn't be about activism. It shouldn't be about sweeping policy in either direction. But I feel right now, parents especially, they're being emotionally blackmailed with this narrative that unless their child transitions, that child is at a high rate of suicide, which is not true. The other thing is social transition is being sold as it's being sold by activists as being completely harmless. So this consists of a child changing their haircut, changing maybe their name and their pronouns, and dressing like the opposite sex. And this is seen as just a way for them to explore. But the thing is, from a research perspective, social transition, even though it doesn't involve medical transition, is associated with going on to medical intervention, and from there going on including cross-sex hormones and surgery. So in a way, it sets a child down this path because it makes it more difficult for the child to say, oh, I made a mistake. It's also very shameful for a child to have to say, I've been making everyone in my life call me this new name and use these new pronouns, and I was actually wrong about that. Children also receive so much attention and praise nowadays for identifying as anything other than their birth sex. And we see this with young people. 20% of Generation Z identifies as LGBT+. So young people are incentivized. I don't believe this is purely due to social acceptance. There's no way that 1 in 5 young people identifies as something other than their birth sex. That's ridiculous to me. So the fact that this is being not only it's being pushed in education. I mean, that's the issue I have, is that it's not an objective approach. It's very much about there's only one right outcome. And if you don't follow that outcome, then you're in trouble.
Okay. I got what you're saying. You think it's a gateway and puts them on the path.
Absolutely.
So with her, I completely agree with everything that they said, and I also thought it was really, really funny that what she was saying was directly going against what Reese and Eli were saying the entire time, and they got triggered. But yeah, so she came on, and I agreed with everything that she said. I wish that I could have gotten to, say, something to her, and we had gotten to make a conversation out of it, but of course, that never happens anywhere in this episode. Yeah, and then next, they bring on this dude, this investigative reporter guy, and he kind of brings up a lot of her same points. He just kind of stated how, researchers can't really come out and put the research that they find out there because they're afraid that they're going to get attacked and hated, by the cult, the mob, the LGBT mob, if they come out with research that proves statistically that there are more detransitioners than people think, because they're afraid to. So yeah, he basically goes on and says the exact same thing. He, I'm pretty sure, supports the fact that kids need like medical treatment. If you think that you're transgender, you should be seeing a therapist, a psychologist, doctors, all sorts of shit, that you shouldn't just be handed hormones. And oh, there's a better picture. There's a better picture of the doctor guy. I don't remember what his name is. But yeah, and then they go off and they ask, it's basically recapping everything that they said. That's Dr. Phil. I don't want Dr. Phil. I don't want to leave it on her face either. There we go. Let's leave it on everybody's face. But yeah, so basically that was the episode. It was quite the nightmare. Honestly, behind the scenes was a nightmare. Getting there was a nightmare. The episode didn't go as planned. But yeah, so I at least hope that I was able to kind of come on and say some more shit that I really wanted to say. Yeah, maybe I'll reach out to some of these people and try to have like maybe a Discord call, and we'll make a video out of it and actually have a discussion like we meant to, you know? So maybe one day. But yeah, that was my Dr. Phil episode, y'all. Well, I went on Dr. Phil and it did not go as planned, but at least I, at least got my story out there, and said some of the stuff that I wanted to say. Like, it could have been worse. But yeah, anyways, that was it. If you guys want to talk to me about the episode and everything, then please join the Discord or anything else. Links down below, alternate channel links down below too for the extended version of this discussion here. Yeah, you guys have a great day. I will catch you guys later. Don't be shy. No, don't forget to hit the like and sub button to join, my villain army, right? We can take over the world eventually, I believe. But yes, anyways, you guys have a good night, day, whatever it is for you. I will catch you guys on the flip side in the next one. So yes, goodbye.